Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
Tonight on News Hour, President Tinubu orders additional sanctions on Niger as junta names prime minister. Victims of flood disaster in Katsina count losses as SEMA assess level of damage. Benue community protests 6 months without electricity supply. And away from Nigeria, UN appeal judges order indefinite suspension of war crimes trial of 90-year-old Rwandan genocide suspect. Hello and welcome to Trust News Hour. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Now the news in detail. Ahead of Thursday's extraordinary summit of Economic Community of West African States, President Bola Tinubu says the ultimatum given to the military junta in Niger is an ECOWAS mandate and not a Nigerian agenda. Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, made the clarification on Tuesday while briefing newsmen at State House, Abuja. The president's spokesman further stressed that the response of ECOWAS to the military coup in Niger has been devoid of ethnic and religious sentiments. Kehinde Amodu reports.
The ultimatum given to the Niger Republic has expired, and the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government is to meet again to review its stance on the impasse in the country. As the deadline ran out, President Tinubu directed the acting governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to levy another slate of sanctions against entities and individuals associated with the military junta in the Niger Republic.
The ECOWAS mandate and ultimatum is not a Nigerian ultimatum. It is not a Nigerian mandate. And the office of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, also serving as the chairman of ECOWAS, seeks to emphasize this point due to certain domestic and international media coverage tending toward a personalization of the ECOWAS's sub-regional position to his person and to our nation individually.
But negotiations have not ceased, both internationally and domestically. Aside from special envoys sent to Niger and its neighbors, President Tinubu in recent days has widened consultations domestically, interfacing with state governors who preside over states bordering Niger. His stance and consultations have resulted in some parts of the media personalizing the ECOWAS position to Nigeria and its president.
His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his capacity as the chairman of ECOWAS, has been unequivocal in his position that diplomacy is the best way forward. In representing the consensus position of the ECOWAS heads of state, he has communicated clearly that he, along with his colleagues in the bloc, would prefer a resolution that was obtained through diplomatic means, through peaceful means, rather than any other. And that will be a position that is maintained going forward, pending any other resolution that may or may not result from the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit holding on Thursday.
Take two. As ECOWAS meets on Thursday, no options have been taken off the table, and far-reaching decisions are expected to be taken by the regional bloc. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Nigerian nationals have been speaking on the impact of the sanctions being imposed on their country by the regional bloc ECOWAS after the recent coup that ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. Abubakar Imam, who traveled to Koni in Tahoua state of Niger Republic, reports that prices of goods and services have skyrocketed, with locals attributing it to the implementation of the sanctions by the Nigerian government. The report.
It was a difficult journey with a lot of experiences. The journey was only made possible with the support of Malam Attahiru Ilela, an Okada man who masters the terrain very well and knows how to bribe his way because of the multiple checkpoints along the bush path. After spending almost an hour struggling through a bushy and muddy path, I finally met Alhaji Sama'ila Sani, the chairman of Bureau de Change Operatives in Konni, who lamented over the hardship they have been experiencing since the closure of the border by the Nigerian government. Prices of commodity have skyrocketed. Transport fare is high. Prices of food have gone up. So also prices of fuel. Things that we were buying very cheap before are now beyond our purchasing power. We have been out of business since the Nigerian government decided to cut off our lights last week as part of measures taken against our new leaders. However, the village head of Araba in Ilela local government area of Sokoto State, Alhaji Ibrahim M. Matan Araba, said military action will never be a solution to the problem. We commended our lawmakers for rejecting the request of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for military intervention in Niger Republic, because we have our people who are doing businesses in the country. They could vent their anger on them, even though we have been warning them to steer clear from their local affairs. It be recalled that the Controller General of Custom, Bashiru Adeni, had during his visit to Ilela border post last week maintained that the decision to close our border with the Niger Republic was taken to restore peace and democracy in the West African sub-region. During the meeting with border communities, Adeni says the closure could be temporary as there have been ongoing efforts to resolve the matter amicably, which he believes could yield positive results.
But there is a decision that has been taken in the wisdoms of the heads of states of ECOWAS, and that decision has to be respected and it has to be implemented. So I urge our communities to understand that this is the position that government has taken and this is what we are implementing.
From Konni in Niger Republic, Abubakar Awal Imam reporting for Trust TV.
Thank you, Abubakar Imam, for that report. Now, nearly 2 weeks after the military took over power in Niger, the coup plotters have named former Economy Minister Ali Mahaman Lamine Zain as the country's new prime minister. A spokesman for the military junta made the announcement on television late on Monday night. According to a Nigerian media report, Lamine Zain was formerly the Minister of Economy and Finance for several years in the cabinet of then-President Mamadou Tanja, who was ousted in 2010 and most recently worked as an economist for the African Development Bank in Chad. At the end of July, the military ousted the democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, and suspended the constitution in the country for 26 million inhabitants. Under Bazoum, Niger has been one of the last strategic partners of the West in the fight against the advancement of Islamist terrorists in the Sahel. An ultimatum from the Economic Community of West African States to the coup plotters to reinstate Bazoum expired over the weekend. Otherwise, ECOWAS will take measures that could include force, the ultimatum said. The prime ministers of the ECOWAS member states will now meet in Nigeria's capital Abuja on Thursday to discuss how to proceed. The Northern Consensus Movement is calling the attention of the president to withdraw his planned agenda of military attack on Niger Republic. The call is coming on the back of the president's request from the Senate seeking implementation of 7-point resolution against Niger Republic, some of which involves military action, cutting off electricity supply to the republic, amongst others. The report.
According to the group, Nigeria can't afford to support any military joint operations of ECOWAS, especially in terms of its financial implications, while recommending diplomacy and dialogue as measures to resolve the impasse.
The decision of military attack can lead to civil war. States with land border with Niger Republic that will be on the firing line are Sokoto, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Jigawa, Yobe, and Borno states. The Northern Consensus Movement is worried about the President's request from the Senate seeking implementation of a 7-point resolution against Niger Republic, some of which involves military action, cutting off electricity supply to Niger Republic, etc. But does the President know the implication of this resolution?
Group, while entertaining fear that Nigeria's crisis, if escalated, might be difficult to contain as it will have negative effect on the African continent and Nigeria in particular, with over 100,000 IDPs in DIFA. NCM appealed to Nigeria's past military head of state and generals to advise President Tinubu in the interest of both Nigeria and Niger Republic.
In fact, we are calling on the likes of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, General Yakubu Gawan, and all others, the General T.Y. Danjuma, whom have experience, including the immediate past President, General Muhammadu Buhari, to make the President understand the implication of waging a war, most especially with a country like Niger that is our sister.
With the deadline given to Niger Republic by ECOWAS already elapsed, tension has continued to heighten in the region, while the world awaits to see the next line of action by ECOWAS. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
Still on Niger sanctions, the Nigeria-Niger Republic Railway project may be at risk after the rupture of diplomatic ties between Nigeria and Niger following the July 26 coup which ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. This came as over 1,000 trucks conveying goods worth over 350 million naira to Nigeria, other West African nations, have remained trapped at the border for over 1 week following the closure of the respective gateways to the two neighboring countries. Meanwhile, transborder traders have said that about 60% of Nigeria-bound goods were trapped at the different sections of the border within the region. Given an update on the situation on Monday, the president of the Transborder Traders Association, Nasiru Salami, said over 350 million naira worth of goods were currently rotting away at the borders to Nigeria. He explained that just 3 days after the coup took place, over 100 trucks loaded with onions and other agricultural products heading to Nigeria and other West African countries were trapped at the borders. Salami urged the ECOWAS to have mercy on over 2,000 petty traders who are currently on the verge of losing their goods to the border closure. The Arewa Consultative Forum has called for the lifting of sanctions against Niger Republic by President Bola Tinubu and the Economic Community of West African States. ACF also commended Nigerian senators for rejecting military actions against the West African country. A statement by its publicity secretary, Tukur Muhammad Baba, sought for more dialogue with the Niger military junta to prevent further breakdown of talks following the expiration of the 1-week deadline earlier given to the regime to restore democratic rule in the country. According to the statement, the ACF condemned the coup and demanded that the personal safety of President Mohamed Bazoum and members of his government be guaranteed by the coup leaders. The statement commended members of the Northern Senators Forum for convincing their colleagues in the Senate to totally reject the outright use of force against Niger Republic in an effort to see the restoration of democratic governance in that country. The ACF further reiterated that ECOWAS and the rest of the international community must demand a very short timeline from the coup leaders within which to hand power back to elected leaders of Niger Republic. The first exploration and mining of uranium in Nigeria will soon commence in Mika, area of Yoro local government of Taraba State. To this end, a company named Clarisver Solution has secured a license from the Federal Ministry of Environment to undertake uranium exploitation and mining within the leased area covering 26 square kilometers. An environmental consultant to Clarisver company, Leonard Kemalolam, revealed this during a meeting organized by the Federal Ministry of Environment to review the environmental impact assessment of the proposed uranium mining project. He said during the meeting held in Jalingo on Tuesday and attended by officials of Taraba State Ministry of Environment, Nigerian Nuclear Regulation Authority, and also the host communities, among others, that it was in compliance to relevant rules and guidelines, adding that the objectives of the environmental impact assessment is to identify and evaluate the potential environmental and social risks and impacts of the proposed project and recommend measures to mitigate, manage, and control the potential risks. Commenting on the project, a representative of the host community, Gubdo, urged the company to guarantee the security of entire communities, fully pay compensation to landowners, fulfill its promise of employing 60% of the total company workers from the communities, and also provide social amenities including water, roads, schools, health facilities. The chairman of the review panel on EIA, Kasim Ubayero, said the project has economic advantage to Taraba State and Nigeria as it will provide good additional source of income, adding that uranium is a Category 1 material and as such requires compliance to all regulations and guidelines provided by relevant acts and laws on uranium mining. Residents of Dutsi local government area of Katsina State are counting their losses after flood disaster which hit 3 communities following a torrential rainfall recently. Some of the residents told Abdullahi Yamadi that they have lost everything to the disaster. The report.
Dozens of houses were destroyed, domestic animals killed, and crops destroyed following a heavy downpour which lasted for about 9 hours.
I lost my business, chemist. I lost my business. I lost my equipment.
This is the worst disaster we have seen in over 2 decades. The worst part of it is that it came when majority of us have fallen on hard times, struggling to put body and soul together. We, however, appreciate the quick response from the state government. What remained here are apparently fallen houses, making them dangerous and uninhabitable. Katsina State Emergency Management Agency SEMA advises residents to vacate immediately to prevent further calamity. Many here are without food, shelter, and clean water, and the little support provided by the local authority could not reach some of the victims.
The flood is over. They gave me 5,000. My clothes, my cooking material, my phone, my electronics. I have my DSTV decoder there.
At least these crops are gone. We spent millions of naira to get here, but as God will have it, see where we are now. I appeal to the government to cushion the effects of the hardship caused by the flood disaster. Many farmlands are still submerged, with crops floating on water days after the flood. SEMA is assessing the damages and losses incurred by victims with a view to ascertaining the intervention to be provided by the government. However, the victims appeal to the state government to rebuild their houses, considering the numerous economic challenges they are facing at the moment. SEMA officials, in the meantime, presented relief materials to flood victims in Redle village of Charanchi local government area. Abdullahi Isma Yamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Moving to security, troops of Joint Task Force Northwest of Operation Hadarin Daji have rescued 9 kidnapped victims in Zamfara State. The troops also killed 10 armed bandits at Gadazema village of the state, while unconfirmed numbers of them fled with gunshot wounds. Military sources say the troops acted on incredible information on armed bandits' movements with some kidnapped victims from Sokoto State through Gadazema village in Zamfara State. The source added that several bandits, while attempting to escape troops' onslaught, drowned in a swampy river, while 2 were captured alive during pursuits by the troops. Items recovered from the bandits include 6 AK-47 rifles, 1 PKT machine gun, and 5 magazines. Others include 20 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, 3 mobile phones, 2 solar panels, 1 sewing machine, and a cash sum of 2,410,000 naira. The 9 kidnapped victims, who are all from Sokoto State, were successfully rescued and have been handed over to the appropriate authority for reunification with their families. The federal government says it has withdrawn the contempt of court proceedings against organized labor for embarking on a nationwide protest. This is contained in a letter addressed to the lead counsel to the NLC, Falana and Falana's chambers, and obtained by the News Agency of Nigeria on Tuesday in Abuja. The letter, dated August 7, was signed by the Solicitor General of the Federation, B.E. Jediagba. NAN reports that the Federal Ministry of Justice had, through the National Industrial Court, issued the leadership of organized labor summons on contempt of court for embarking on the protest. The organized labor had threatened to embark on a nationwide strike from August 14 if the federal government fails to withdraw its contempt of court charges. Organized labor had embarked on mass protest over anti-poor policies of government, especially the removal of subsidy that had brought untold hardship to Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms with a charge on them to transform the tax system to support sustainable development and achieve a minimum of 18% tax to GDP ratio within the next 3 years. The committee, which has a 1-year span, is to address the broad fiscal challenges facing the Nigerian economy through fiscal governance and tax reforms and growth facilitation. The report.
President Tinubu said the committee has its objective the advancement of viable and cost-effective solutions to issues such as multiplicity of tax collection agencies, the high cost of revenue administration, and lack of effective coordination between fiscal and other economic policies across all levels of government.
This promise is why I saw an end to the fuel subsidy. It is the reason the central bank has called an end to its multiple exchange rate system. It won't happen under my watch.
The chairman of the committee, Taiwo Oyedele, said if the country is to achieve the needed growth, there is a need to create a conducive environment to attract private and foreign investment through a comprehensive approach and coordinated strategy. He further hinted that the committee will evolve ways of mobilizing more tax revenues without necessarily increasing tax burdens.
We must be committed to establishing a conducive policy environment to attract global and local businesses and position our nation as a hub for research and development, technology and innovation, headquarters location, financial and shared services center for the continent.
Nigeria has big potential for revenue utilization that should be sufficient to cater for our people without resorting to excessive borrowing, which often crowd out the private sector and limit our ability to finance sustainable development, create jobs and prosperity for Nigeria.
Speaking after the inauguration, the representative of the World Bank said the agenda of the committee is to key to helping Nigerians achieve inclusive growth, with more economic opportunities and better services for Nigerians.
Support, most of the financing that we provide is directly for services like primary health care, electricity access, rural roads. Those are things that what we look forward to a day where Nigeria is fully financing those from its own government resources.
Members of the committee drawn from private and public sectors, ministries, departments and relevant agencies are further charged to cooperate fully with the committee towards achieving their mandates.
Persons with disabilities on Tuesday decried the exclusion from the ministerial list submitted by President Bola Tinubu to the Senate. The Senate on Monday approved and confirmed 45 out of the 48 nominees sent by the President, I beg your pardon. Speaking at a joint press conference, the community said their omission was not in accordance with the Discrimination Against Persons and Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018, which calls for the inclusion of at least 5% of the PWDs in public office appointments. They noted that the absence of representatives in the new cabinet list deflates the hope and anticipation fostered by several organizations of PWDs alongside other political leaders and the international community. The community therefore demanded an enforcement of Sections 29 of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act 2018, which provides a minimum of 5% appointment quota for persons with disabilities at all levels of government, including states. You're watching News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after the break, we tell you the story of residents living without power supply for months on end. Do stay. Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching News Hour on Trust TV. A recap of our major stories. We told you that President Tinubu orders additional sanctions on Niger as junta names prime minister. We also told you that victims of flood disaster in Katsina count losses as SEMA assess level of damage. Moving to other stories, the Mekpe community in Makurdi has been without electricity for long. Members of the community have staged a peaceful protest to demand the restoration of electricity supply to their community. They allege that some officials of Jos Electricity Distribution Company changed their 47-year-old transformer without their knowledge. Jimmy Adzande sent in this report as presented from our studio.
The protesting youth with placards and green leaves expressed their displeasure for living without electricity in the last 6 months.
That this particular transformer that is serving us now is not even our transformer. And this, our own very transformer that has been serving us, has served us for 47 years.
Youth in the community who barricaded the entrance gates of Makurdi Power Distribution Office were addressed by the management of JEDC and the NSCDC.
From their discussion, it has been agreed 3 o'clock, the team of JED will be in Demeke to assess the capacity of those 2 or 3 transformers that are working. And we want to say we are very sorry for all the embarrassment and the suffering you have gone through. We are quite aware and we are actually going to work towards ensuring stable supply in your community.
The protesters later returned to the community, anticipating quick restoration of electricity supply.
Members of the National Youth Corps Service scheme deployed to Abuja are finding it difficult to cope with rising cost of transportation in the capital city since the fuel subsidy removal. The Youth Corps members called on government and places of primary assignment to review working days and possibly increase their salaries. Dorcas Yakubu reports.
The recent fuel price increase has brought about increases in cost of food, transportation fares. Corps members in Abuja are not immune from the hike in the cost of transportation. Though prices of basic necessities have gone up, allowance of the Corps members, however, remains the same. The Corps members said that their allowance is not enough to cater for their basic needs.
We are not finding it easy as a Nigerian and as a corps too. Prices of things have added, especially price of transportation, foodstuff and the rest. Then we used to spend less to come for CDS and PPA, but now we spend ×2 of what we used to spend before. So as a Nigerian and as a corper, it's very hard for us.
Just from our house alone, we are spending nothing less than 2,000 to 3,000 naira just to get to our place of CDS. So it's not funny at all, and we are not really gaining anything. Even though, yes, we are serving our nation, at least our feeding, our accommodation and anything. So it's really on us. And we have to go extra mile just to see extra money again for us to survive. So we pray that the government will help us at the end.
And coupled to the fact where we actually reside, it's quite far from our PPA. And the transport is not encouraging at all. We spend a lot. Within 1 to 2 weeks, we've spent 33,000, and we see nothing funny. It's not funny at all, and all the things we've been receiving, we use it for transport.
Yeah, I feel if it's possible, they should reduce working days for corpers and also increase the alawi so we would be able to run around as well. Because if at the end of the day, the only thing we use our alawi for is to save it for transportation, and maybe to get something to eat when you're hungry. There's no savings with alawi.
It's really taking a toll, especially on Corps member 7. You know, the inflation of transport prices, like before from here to Kubwa is about 400 to 500, but now it's 700.
They appealed to government to review working days and also increase their allowance. Dorcas Yakubu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Residents of Yola, the Adamawa state capital, have been lamenting the rise in the prices of foodstuff within the city center and other localities with every passing week. According to them, The price of a bag of maize is currently sold between 70, 60 and 40,000 naira, depending on its size. Silas Lawang, who visited Yola South Grains Market, files in the report.
Since the implementation of the removal of the fuel subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, prices of foodstuff, transportation and other commodities have automatically increased, a development that has not gone down well with many Nigerians, especially low-income earners. Last week, a bag of maize was sold between 50 to 55,000 and 60,000 naira in this market, but now it goes for 70,000 naira, an increase of 10,000 within a week. Marketers blame the development on insecurity and the fuel subsidy removal.
Wannan buhunan da yake gani wanda aka sa elwil din nan mai wannan koren buhu abin da zane a jikin sannan yau dai abin da farashin sa yake a nan 70,000 ne.
We should not be blamed because we travel very far to bring in these cereals. You know how difficult it is to transport goods this time. Big bag of maize is now 70,000, while medium is between 50 to 60,000 naira. Last week, a fire outbreak destroyed property worth millions of naira at the Grand Street of the market, commonly referred to as Lion Masunika, while stakeholders assured of help for those affected. The victims of the fire outbreak are soliciting for more assistance, saying even the first assistance promised to them by the state government and their representatives is yet to reach them.
Gaskiya asaran da nayi daga miliyon 1 zuwa sama asaran da na san nayi shi a wannan shago.
I lost over 1 million naira to the fire outbreak, and there are shops I know that had in stock goods worth millions of nairas. That's why we need more assistance.
Some of the shops said they lost something about more than 5 million, and the other shop is they lost more than 3,500,000 and above. And our loss, we just thank God for what the governor Ahmadu Fintiri has purchased, giving us and the member representing Yola North and Yola South. We even thank God for what he has done. But seriously, our losses, we cannot recover it as well as before. Yan kasuwan Yola muna muku bakin ciki da abun da ya faru.
I pray to God to prevent a future occurrence and also replenish what you lost to the inferno. Moreover, you people need to be sure that you switch off all your electrical appliances at the close of work.
Stakeholders have also called for assistance for the victims to enable them return to their businesses. Silas Lawang, Trust TV News, Yola.
Increase in transportation fares is adding to the plight of workers trying to cope with the current economic challenges in the country. This has made some offices allow work from home, just like during the COVID-19 period. But how many Nigerians are willing to work at home? Will there be no distractions? What jobs can be done at home? Beatrice Kuruti samples opinions of some workers in Maiduguri. The report.
Offices are important buildings for workers in any organization to deliver expected services needed to achieve set objectives by the institution. Workers are expected to be at their work of place at least 5 days in. But that is changing as some offices are reviewing work plans that staff can accomplish at home, just like the days of the deadly coronavirus, which forced workers to stay at home. While some workers in Maiduguri see working at home as a welcome idea, others believe it's only feasible for administrative officers and not essential workers.
Someone like me, I don't work at home, and I can't work at home because my work and my schedule requires me to be on the field, on the street, and then it also requires me to be at work almost every day. So for my kind of work, it doesn't require me to be at home.
A lot of people might see working from home as a setback, but it is not so. Number one, it is flexible. It gives workers, particularly in the administration department, human rights department, the opportunity to carry out their task without any form of predicament.
Have like the people that in our people, the analog, let me just use this analog people, they believe in hard copy of every work, every duty that they do. So the hard copy is always kept for record purpose. But if you are working from home, you may not be able to put those records in order.
They also point out factors that will affect the work at home strategy.
If you don't have good online access, it will definitely reduce your productivity. And then secondly, power supply.
The ones that have children, they may seem to be distracted. They will be distracted by their children, because the children, when they come back from school, there are some work that you need your full attention. They does not need distraction.
The new work at home strategy has been adopted by some organizations across the country. Many hoped that the new trend will not affect productivity of workers. Bitrus Kuruti, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
Workers in Delta State want the government to consider reduction of working days from employees from 5 days to 3 days a week, among other palliative measures to help cushion the effects of increased fuel prices. They speak with Jonathan Awanyai in Asaba. The report.
Workers in Delta State have urged the state governor, Sheriff Obarewori, to emulate Kwara and Edo State governors who have reduced working days in their states, as one of the immediate measures to reduce the hardship after fuel subsidy removal. Workers said they can work from home for the remaining 2 days of the week. The workers also tasked the government with providing palliative measures in place to alleviate their sufferings.
Always said the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people. So if you are coming out with policies to strangulate the people, to choke them, then it is incumbent upon the labor movement to draw their attention to why they were elected. Like we said, they didn't elect them to kill us. We elected them to make life easy for us.
But our workers, we cannot continue like this. What we spend about 70% of our money, of our earning on transport alone, without any other thing. So how can you survive this whole system?
They listed some of the palliatives to include tax reduction, increase in basic salaries, transport and other utility allowances, provision of buses for transportation at subsidized rates, and reduced working days.
Interventions such as wage grants and buses at a subsidized rate should be given to convey workers and the masses around. Apart from that, social awards, social grants should be given to the vulnerable in the society to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal, because it is biting hard on us and it's causing us pain. Things should be done urgently to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal.
To reduce the working days of the civil servants from 5 days to 3 days. The cost of transportation is very high and not enough to cater for our daily needs, to talk of transportation.
Economic conditions around. First of all, the decision to reward members of the workforce, is one of the ways by which at least some remedial, climate or remedial measures has actually, been put in place.
While stressing that workers across the states were suffering on a daily basis, they added that workers in the state could no longer afford such pains due to their poor remunerations.
In crime, crime, a 45-year-old woman, Taya Abbas from Ilorin, Kwara State, has been arrested by Lagos State Police for allegedly using a 10-year-old girl for drug trafficking. The police paraded her at the state headquarters, Ikeja. Victoria Tokolo sent in this report as presented from our studio.
Lagos State Police Command has rescued a 10-year-old girl who was said to have been used by her auntie for drug trafficking in the state. Police Public Relations Officer Benjamin Hondayi told journalists that illicit drugs were found in the girl's private part as she was being brought into the station by a good neighbor. The suspect, Ajayi Abbas, explained why she decided to use the girl and why she ran away from home. The Police Public Relations Officer Benjamin Hondayi advises residents to be vigilant as drug traffickers use different methods to deceive people.
A girl was found roaming the streets, and a good neighbor brought her straight to the station because the girl apparently was lost and could not find her way back home. So they took her to the station, and she complained that she was being maltreated at home, and that's why she ran away at the first opportunity of running an errand. And while trying to take care of the child, to have a bath, to make her have a bath and have a change of clothes, it was discovered that drugs were hidden in her panties. And that's prompted further questions. Which revealed that it has been an ongoing occurrence with the girl. So we had to extend the investigation to her home, and we were able to bring her guardian to the station. That's Pennsylvania Division. And good enough, she did not deny it. She admitted that that had been a way of courier her drugs from home to the shop where she eventually sells them.
I sell soft drinks and food, but survival became difficult, so I was introduced to hard drugs called Kolos, where I used to go and buy the soft drinks. I was also told that police do arrest those that sell it, so whenever the person gives me the drug, I will give it to her to put inside her underwear. I will then collect it from her when I get to the shop.
From the house, so they now see me. So they now bring me to police station. So the time that I want to bath, they now see drug in my body. So they now ask that how the drug come my body. And I tell her that it's the mommy that I'm living with that put it in my body.
Similarly, police in Lagos have arrested a 43-year-old man, Fake Alpha, who allegedly tricked a US-based Nigerian before taking over his wife, children, properties, and his 105 million naira. The suspect allegedly committed a crime along with his wife and 3 others. Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 2, Lagos, Ari Muhammad Ali, paraded the suspect and his accomplices.
You're still watching News Hour on Trust TV. The news will return shortly. Welcome back. Azman Airline has sent all its staff on compulsory leave without pay after suspending its commercial operations. The leave follows end of its Hajj operation and the unavailability of its Boeing 737 aircraft that has gone for check maintenance and is yet to return. However, in a circular signed by the Human Resource Manager, Magaji Muhammad Misau, dated 3rd August, only 8 senior staff are exempted from the compulsory leave. The circular told staff that domestic operations have been put on hold for a while and conveyance of aircraft for sea checks and the MROs has given a longer time of completion. Azman Air Management directed all staff to proceed on leave without pay with effect from 1st August. The circular, however, said all station managers have been exempted from compulsory leave. On the international scene, UN appeal judges have ordered the war crimes trial for 90-year-old Rwandan genocide suspect Felicien Kabuga be indefinitely suspended because he has dementia, rejecting plans for an alternative slimmed-down procedure. The decision taken on Monday likely means that Kabuga's trial, which started last year in The Hague, will not be completed. In June, judges at the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals ruled Kabuga unfit to stand trial, but said alternative procedures should take place. Prosecutors had argued that halting the trial would be unfair to the victims and said Kabuga's own actions put him in the position of facing trial at an advanced age with diminished capacity. However, appeal judges said on Monday that the lower court made an error of law, adding that there was no legal basis for an alternative finding procedure instead of a trial for Kabuga. The judges also ordered a lower trial chamber to rapidly evaluate under which circumstances Kabuga could be released. Let's now join Adeni Ajishafe for sports news.
The Nigerian Basketball Federation (NBBF) has announced the date and venue for the 2023 Women Basketball League. The basketball body announced Akure and Jos as the venue for the championship with 21st to 27 August as dunk-off date. The league will be played in 2 conferences over 2 phases, with 14 teams participating in the Atlantic and Savannah conferences. The second phase will come up from 18 to 24 September in Asaba for Atlantic Conference, while Lafayette will host the Savannah Conference. The national final will dunk off from 17 to 24th October 2023 at the National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos. And still on basketball, Nigeria D Tigre forward Emi Okonkwo has said it is a huge honor to be named the most valuable player of the just concluded 2023 Women's Afro-Basket Championship in Kigali, Rwanda. Okonkwo led Nigeria D Tigres to a 4th consecutive title, beating rival Senegal 84-74 in the final game play at the BK Arena. Emi contributed a team high of 17.2 points with 8.2 rebounds per game to ensure the Tigers triumph. Following their superb performance in Women's Afro-Basket Championship in Rwanda, Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, hosted the victorious team. The First Lady said the Tigers performed well due to hard work, discipline and commitment, which will inspire more women to pursue their dreams. That's Sport News. I'm Adeniyi Ajishafe.
And with that, we've come to the end of News Hour on Trust TV. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Thanks for watching.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.